This episode of The Breakfast Dish is brought to you by the Business Council of Alberta. Have you ever wondered what it takes to create a good life in an equally good society, one where people, business, and the environment can flourish? Alberta Better, a podcast by the Business Council of Alberta, is on a journey to understand what it takes to create a good life here in Alberta and how we, as Albertans, businesses, and governments can shape our society so everyone prospers. Find new episodes of Alberta Better on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also listen at businesscouncilab.com/Alberta Better Podcast. That's businesscouncilab.com/Alberta Better Podcast. New episodes drop every other Tuesday.
Tell me your dreams over bacon and eggs. We'll share a laugh and a story and even a wish on the breakfast dish. Bop, 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 bop.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to episode I Forget of The Breakfast Dish, this podcast that I run with my son, Griffin Cork, about arts happening in Alberta, live, in person, or still socially distanced and safe. And I'm sure that there's an episode number involved here, and it starts with a 4, like 40 something. 9, maybe? Is it episode 49 that we're doing?
I believe it is episode 49.
Okay, so we'll be wrong together if we're wrong. That's the voice of my son, Griffin Cork, who lets me talk about breakfast and with people I really like.
This is the sigh of a podcast host in his twilight years. We are coming to the end of season 2 of The Breakfast Dish. I think this is, Karen, if I'm right, the second last episode.
I believe so.
Because then we will be taking a month hiatus and we'll be coming back with season 3 of The Breakfast Dish. And if you listen to the Karen and Griffin episode that I think we shoved in somewhere around episode 44, You'll know that the mandate of The Breakfast Dish is kind of changing, in that as the world begins to open up and kind of retake its little baby steps into its little baby world, baby crib time.
Walk to mama. Walk to mommy.
Are you sorry? You're talking to the world right now? Excellent. We will be talking with folks and artists and creators, but not necessarily with the caveat of the socially distant or that kind of mandate. Maybe just people we find interesting or we like.
Right. We might not have to amplify online or socially distanced art in Alberta because we might be going back to something that slightly resembles a part of what might have been the case of what normal was like before.
And get this, they might not even have to promote an event. We might just ask them on the show because we think they're cool. What about, holy frick?
Can I just tell you something?
Okay.
Who we have on the show today is mostly just because I think they're cool.
Sorry.
They're actually doing a thing.
Listen, I'm excited about their event, but maybe that's just me. Wow.
Okay. You be excited about the event. I will be excited about... I get to improvise with this gorgeous soul. I've been able to do a play with this gorgeous soul and workshops, I think, even play readings with this gorgeous soul. And this gorgeous soul is none other than...
Wait.
What?
Because... Well, they asked for a large intro. I was expecting one of the biggest ones we have.
Okay, great. Okay, just a second. Back
you
up.
said you pulled up his bio.
Yeah, I did. I was on it. Let me tell you a bit about this beautiful soul.
You're vamping.
I know. Because I lost the bio because I had to come back and find out what's wrong with you.
That's the mandate of your life so far. I have to come back and find out what's wrong with Griffin. What the hell did he do?
Do you remember those game shows where you'd just get little bits of people and then you'd have to guess who it was? Is an actor, director, podcaster, and drag performer from the Kainai Nation in Southern Alberta. He's a recent graduate of U of L, where you also went to school, Griffin. He works as an advocate for diversity in the performance sector while also lending his creativity to several queer and youth initiatives. This is the play that I have yet not seen and I want to. It's this one-person show called Where the Two-Spirit Lives that encompasses storytelling, movement, and lots of lip syncing as a way of celebrating the resurgence of indigiqueer knowledge sharing paradigms from traditional ways of knowing. Have you guessed?
Yeah, you got passionate there at the end, and I love the energy.
I was just proud of myself for not stumbling a third time on the bio. The drag star that was birthed by this beautiful soul is named Mavis von Treese, and I have had the pleasure of also being on stage with Mavis von Treese.
What? You've been on stage with Mavis von Treese?
Although our guest is part of Dirty Laundry, the completely improvised soap opera in Calgary, I believe it's Mavis that is in the show, not necessarily our guest that is in the show.
We're doing too many assumptions. We have to. Truly, I will say, this has been our largest intro and maybe most formal.
Anyway, his name's Bob, and he couldn't be here tonight, so goodbye.
So it's actually just us. Thanks for listening to The Breakfast Dish.
Please welcome the genius behind Mavis von Treese and the curator of Braving Beauty Cabaret at Arts Commons, Marshall Vielle.
Hello. Thank you so much for that marvelous introduction.
It was a terrible introduction.
It was quite long, I have to admit, but I will say that I would like for everybody to introduce me in that exact same way from here on out.
Great.
Yeah.
I think that might be the first time we've pulled up a bio. Am I right about that?
Well, you don't introduce Marshall or Mavis
Without
a bio.
I'm not saying he doesn't
history.
deserve it. I'm saying, like, let's sit in the regal moment of that.
Well, that means after 49 episodes, we're probably doing our job better than we were for the first 48.
That's right. Starting now, at the end of season 2, we got to figure it out. Now we got it.
Speaking of jobs, Marshall and I were lucky enough to do the Christmas Carol together in 2019. And then you performed again in 2020. And also Dirty Laundry.
Yeah, it's Marshall playing Mavis, playing Ernestina. It's very
nuanced.
Shakespearean in that
That's
way.
Right.
Yeah.
Shakespearean.
A character within a character. Yeah.
Is Christmas Carol where you two met?
It's the first time we worked together.
Yeah, but I think we
definitely
met before. I know that you did Blow Wind, High Water.
Yes,
and
yes.
I did not see that show, but the buzz around Calgary was, who's this guy? Oh my God, where did he come from?
I recall the first time that I saw you, you were selling plays in a lobby.
Oh, yeah.
And then the first time we talked, I believe it was at Quest. We had ran into each other in the hallway or in the rehearsal hall at some point.
Yeah, that makes sense. Everyone meets at Quest. Quest Theater is what brings everybody together. Yes.
That's right. I met my mom at Quest Theater.
Quest Theater.
And I should clarify, I was not selling plays that I wrote. I was selling plays on behalf of Concrete Theater in Edmonton.
She had a red
and
trench
Playwrights
coat
Canada
on.
Press.
Who wants some theater? Come on over. I got quality
I got some
shit.
Clem Martini. I got some Stuart Lemoyne. I got some Miyako Ochi. Anyway, yeah, okay, that's a good. I like that we met at Quest.
Quest, yeah.
Okay, transition to what we're here about, Griffin.
Sure. Gosh. Well, we have brought Marshall on because he is the co-creator of the Braving Beauty Cabaret at the Arts Commons. And the Arts Commons has been doing a whole bunch of cool events. I think a lot of their outdoor events have been either postponed just because of the air quality, which is too bad. But yeah, a whole bunch of cool stuff. In fact, I think you had performed in one previously before co-creating this one. Am I right?
So I was meant to do it last year, but then, as we all know,
right.
The world kind of that whole thing. So I didn't get to do that, but they brought me back to do that as well. So this year I'm actually doing both Braving Beauty and then Sissy Fit is actually coming out on the 25th as well.
Oh yeah, I saw some Brett Dahl photos of that. Oh yeah, that's going to be great stuff.
Yeah.
Wait, first tell me about that because I'm out of the loop on that one.
So Sissy Fit was the same type of deal that we did for Braving Beauty. It was meant to come out in June, which is Pride Month. And it's just a chance for queer folks in the city to show what they can do. And so Brett had asked me to come on board and do some drag. So yeah, and that'll be coming out on July 25th as well at 7 p.m.
July 25th is an important day because that's probably the day the Bettys were when I first saw you dance as Mavis. Oh, my Lord. Mm-hmm. I know. I'm not going to get past Mavis.
I was just thinking about the Betty's performance.
I know. I'm not going to be able to get past this now. Okay. Braving Beauty Cabaret. Please tell me everything a regular Calgarian who's been stuck inside for 17 months, needs to know about that.
Well, where to begin? So Braving Beauty is a cabaret that I was able to curate for Arts Commons and stuff. And basically, what it is it's a chance for Black folks in the city as well as Native folks in the city to come together to share, honestly, what makes us beautiful. And a lot of that comes from the songs and the dance and just the stories that are flowing throughout our bodies and such. And most of those are related to where we come from as well. And so, it's just a chance for us to really come together and bridge the gap between both of our communities as well. When I was trying to think about what kind of cabaret should I, help curate and stuff. I wanted to be able to create a cabaret that really did a lot to, uplift the incredible Native women throughout Treaty 7 and stuff. And so, half of the artists who are part of this are, coming from, the Treaty 7 area here as well. And, they're going to be sharing some of their amazing gifts with folks who are from the larger African diaspora as well. I believe a lot of the artists who are coming on that end from Toyin, who brought them on, are from the Nigeria area as well. And so it's really just about both of these groups, Blackfoot and Black folks, coming together to share art, tell each other this is who we are. Because I think as artists, I really love to do my best to really help build a foundation of understanding. And the best way for me to do this is by just getting folks, allowing us to really build relationships in an actual space and stuff. And so, that's what Braving Beauty is.
and for folks who don't know, and just for my clarification, Toyin is your co-creator.
She is.
Curator.
Yes.
Creator.
Co-curator. Coca-Cola was a drug once and had cocaine in it.
Sorry, what? Is that real? I thought that was a myth.
No, I think there was this element of truth about that. I don't know. We'll look it up and you can put it on the page.
I won't.
So there is singing, dancing, poetry. Am I missing things?
All of the above, yeah. There's also some comedy as well, so you'll hopefully laugh at that. And then obviously drag, because both Tony and myself, we had brought these artists on. And then we were like, now that we have invested in these artists, what can we do as well? And so Toyin does some. She has the most amazing voice, and so she'll sing throughout the show. And then Mavis comes as well. So
I was going to say, are there performances by the co-curators, or
Yes.
is it more like an MC thing?
So without spoiling anything,
yes,
I'll say this: I will open the show, and Toyin will close the show. Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
I like that. So I think the process of curation is something that's always been very. I've never curated anything in my life. I would love to hear from you about what. Is this your first time curating, or have you curated before?
It is. Yeah.
What was that like, diving into that for the first time?
Well, I mean, so I was approached to do this back in the fall, and at the time it was meant to be I suppose a return to theater and such. We were told this will be way down, 8 months time, and everything's going to be fine at that point.
Yeah.
And then, May came and it wasn't. And so this whole thing, I was promised that this is going to be on an actual stage, with an actual audience. And if I had known then what I know now, no.
Little bit of Mavis coming out.
Just a little bit. So I was asked to do this, and at the time I was like, I have no idea, how this looks. And so I sat on it and I was like, what do I want to bring to this? Toyin had been involved with it. And then both her and Josh had, come to me and were like, oh, we also want you to be a part of this. We think that we don't really have anything set up other than we want to just put on a show, using both of your talents and the folks that to help tell these stories. And Toyin and I, we were on Zoom, just being like, what do we do? How do we want this to go? And so we had a lot of talks about what we wanted to be a part of this cabaret, but ultimately why we were doing it. Why were we, coming together to tell these stories? Why were we bringing these folks together? Why is it so necessary for us? Because anytime I do a show or anytime I see a show, I always tell myself, why this show? Why now? And I think that's always the first thing that I ask myself. And so even doing this, it was like, why this show and why now? And I think that like 2020 was a large year where there was, tons of uncoverings when it comes to, folks who aren't being treated the best, to say it lightly. And I think that this was a really, really good time for us to kind of, really find a common strength and lean on each other's. When you think about Natives in Canada, when you think about Black folks who immigrate here, you don't often think about them as being co-conspirators in the arts, or being buddy or having lots of things to share. And that's not true. There's so much, not even, going as far as, understanding that we've both, come from, a heavily colonized past. A lot of the stories that we have, a lot of the music that we, sing, and a lot of the dances that we do, like they're all really connected to the land and connected to the body and stuff. And, what our relationship is to the land and stuff. And so when we started to think about why we were doing this, it was because they, folks who are going to be a part of this, haven't been treated the best. And we need a way to, really celebrate the beauty of what makes these folks who they are. And I know for myself, like anytime I do any show, even if it like drag or anything, it can be incredibly hard for people like Toyin and myself and all the artists that we got together. It can be incredibly hard for us to show up, to go into that call, to submit yourself for an audition, to submit for anything because of the extra, stress of like, am I going to be the only one in the room? And just like all of that and stuff. And so, what this cabaret was our chance to really acknowledge that for folks like us, it can be incredibly hard for us to show up. And along with that, find ways to really take up space here in the city. We talk about wanting to make real change in the city and want to hear so many other voices out. Not only in like the theater community, but like in the city as a whole. And this was our start to really, just say, hey, like here we are. This is what we have to say. And we'd love for you to, come and listen with an open heart.
You have this gigantic heart. And again, I've known you a few years, but you are like such a magnet of positivity, and like you just scream a hug. Like that to me, if I had to say what your aura was, I'd say it was a hug. I don't know anything about auras, but what is it like? I don't know, because you don't know any different, but did you think when you graduated from U of L, how many years ago now?
2017. So going on 4 years. Yeah.
4 years, just 4 years ago, did you think you'd be in the position that you are now, where you're acting on the biggest stages and you're curating performances and you're a celebrated drag performer? Like, what did you think was going to be it like, and what is it?
I mean, well, definitely not this. So when I was in my last year of school, everybody, on Fourth, you've known Fourth, how busy it can get and how loud it can get and how excited everybody, on Fourth can be about theater and all of this stuff. And I just wasn't, I recall in my last year, we had to, prep for Emerge and stuff. And, a lot of folks would like talk about their, what they're going to do. They would talk about a lot of the calls that they were going to be going to in that final semester of school. And I hadn't prepped any of that. I didn't make the choice. Like I had done a little bit of prep, but I didn't make the choice to Emerge until, I want to say January. It was a time where I was just like, oh, well, I don't really, know or really completely understand, because I didn't grow up, doing theater. I didn't grow up, in the city. I grew up on, I was a snotty-nosed res kid, growing up, and I never attended theater here in the city. I didn't know, or even understand how the theater world worked. And so when it came to getting excited about like leaving school, I was just like, well, I have a job at the Fort Museum coming up. I'm going to be, doing some acting stuff there for May and June. And I get to like, teach some kids about, the whiskey trade and yada, yada, yada. Like, I guess I have that going. And then I received a call for Blow Wind. I believe it was in July. And I was just like, yeah, sure. Let's see what this yields. Let's go out there. And, because I had no idea. I had no idea that, 4 years later, this is where I would be. It's quite a shock. And I think every day I'm still in disbelief that I get to do this. And I often tell myself that, whenever I'm, when it's a busy day, I think the first thing that I always remind myself is I don't have to do this work. I get to do this work. So, yeah, I fresh out of university, cast in Blow Wind. I was only out of school for, May, June, July, 4 months at that time. And I got cast on the Max Bell, and I had no idea how big of a deal that was. I was just like, oh, like, it's a show. It's a show that, has, someone named Kevin who is Blackfoot, who is Two-Spirit, who is a lawyer, who is fighting for their rights. And I was like, that seems like a cool role. I'll go and do that. And it wasn't until I got cast and then I had moved to the city and everybody was like, that's so cool. Like you're on this big stage. And I was like, yeah, it's just so cool that I get to, do work. And I had not really understood the full extent of, just how big of a deal it was. I had grown up, hearing about, the Christmas Carol show and loving the show, loving the story so much. And then like, oh yeah, like this is also a thing that they do. And then I recall, when we were in tech for Blow Wind, I was sitting in the green room and the poster of Christmas Carol that's behind the green room door. I saw that and I was like, one day I'm going to be in that show.
Yeah.
And then it was like,
hell yeah.
And then it was and so that was September 2017. And then October 2019, we were there. We got to that. So like, I think
I love stories like that.
I had no idea what 4 years being out of school would yield. And I'm just so grateful that this is what it does, that I get to come on and talk about breakfast and drag and beauty and all that stuff.
You worked with Stephen Hare on both those shows, right? Blow
Yeah.
Wind and as well as Christmas Carol. And then you won the Stephen Hare Emerging Artist Award in 2018.
I did, yeah.
So it went Blow Wind 2017, Big Award 2018, Christmas Carol 2019.
And then 2020 with the
With
filming.
the Christmas Carol film. Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes it's hard to acknowledge just how lucky I am because I don't, as I said, like I don't, it sounds terrible. Like I understand now, 4 years later, how big of a deal it is. But I think back then I was just like, I just want to act. I just want to say things on stage.
Yeah, no, but there's something really nice about that. And I also think the conversation around disbelief and luck is also, there's no way that you didn't get to where you are without like work ethic and talent. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
It's not all luck.
Of course.
You think you weren't prepped because you weren't doing the hustle or whatever to like make sure you had all these calls coming up out of university for auditions or whatever. And yet you had a job that let you do the thing that you were going to do at the fort, right?
Yeah.
So there's
About
something
whiskey.
about, I just need to do this thing. And it's not about where I need to do it or who's directing me in the thing or how many people will see me in the thing. It's just, I get to do the thing that I think makes an actor an actor.
Yeah. I think like for me as a human being, it's really hard for me to look at what next year will look like. It's so hard for me to, pinpoint where I'm going to be. I'm so like, it's like when I think for the first time, when we had done Carol in 2019, that was the first time that I was like, oh, I guess when the show closed and they were like, we'll see you next year. I was like, oh, I guess like I'll be doing this next year. That was the first time I think like in my entire life, I want to say, where I knew what was happening a year from right now, because it's really hard for me to like prep for things that are going to be, a year down the road. I'm just like, so I guess part of the work of me getting prepped is doing the work that I need to stay grounded in the here and now.
So I'm gonna jump topics entirely. Well, not entirely. In terms of work and in terms of prep, I would love to know the first experience that got you into drag.
Into drag. So funny. I think that I've always been a drag queen, or at least a little bit of a cross dresser growing up. Like I recall being really young and I'd like, put my hair up in some pigtails and put on a pink shirt and sing along to, Can't Stop the Moonlight from Coyote Ugly.
Whoa.
There must be a video of this somewhere. Please tell me I watched it.
There's not, but we can definitely remake it.
That's
absolutely. Right. So just growing up, I've just been always incredibly, loving, queens, ladies who can sing, who rock, who really take their power. That's what I had always seen. I grew up, I was raised by women for my entire life. And so I've always grown up, idolizing them and just like being able to witness their power and stuff. And then obviously, we have, the Tu Wong Fu, which I think might have been the first show that I saw, of drag queens at, the ripe age of maybe 10 or 11. And then, Mrs. Doubtfire, was my favorite film growing up.
I love that.
Oh yeah. Because the drag and the old lady, all of that. But I think too, because it was about, family and the bringing together. There were, the mom and the dad and the kid, like there was a whole thing. So the story was great, but the idea of this man, like, going to whatever he needs to, even if it means putting on a white wig and slapping some pie on his face and yelling, hello outside of the fridge. Like, I've just always been inspired.
Drag. That's amazing.
I've just always been inspired about, getting to dress up.
Right.
No matter what it was and stuff. And then I had done scene study when I was in school, and, at the time we were doing Meisner, and, that's a whole thing where you have to, you choose an activity and then you like have a whole backstory. It's a whole thing.
That's right.
But yeah, so like one of the things that I did was like, I went to, Walmart, I think at the time, and picked up some makeup and just like started to just paint my face as my activity. And then Jay, who we know from
Jay Whitehead.
Yeah. Was like, oh, like, is drag something that you do? And it wasn't. At least not like actual drag. And I was like, and he was like, well, you should come and, do a show with us. And I was like, sounds good. And then I think that same month or that same week, they put out a call for the Pretty Witty and Gay, which I think you also performed at, Griffin.
Yes,
it was
that's
the
right.
2016.
We did one of our class projects, maybe?
There was a sheet, I think.
You had a lot of shadow work. That's right.
Yeah, so I went over there.
Wait, that was your first time?
That was my first time in drag. Yeah, I did.
What?
Yeah, Ursula.
There's been so many, not so many, but a very good chunk of times when we've been talking to people on this show where it's like, yeah, I kind of got started when someone asked me if I did a thing and I lied, and then I figured I'd figure it out. So that kind of says something, because as soon as you know you have to do something, you put in the work to do it.
And that's my biggest thing too. It's like, if I can't do something, I'll figure it out before I have to go on. And so I sent an email, and I was like, at the time, all I sent like for music was just like a YouTube link, because I didn't know what the protocol of sending someone your music was. So I was like, hi, I'm this, and my name is going to be Mavis Von Trees, and I'm going to do this song, but I'm also, so what they said was to do one song. I did 3. Just because I was like, if this is the first and only time that I do this, like, let's make it count. So I had
also Mavis is like, 1 is not enough.
Absolutely. So I sent an email with my songs and stuff, and then it happened, and then one of my friends as well, I was like, you can beat face, you have wigs, like, I need you to put me in drag. And they were like, yeah, sure. I think it was the day before, the day after, they got really sick and they couldn't. And so I was like, I've committed to doing this. I signed up. I sent them a track. I have to do this. And so before the show, I believe I went to Velu Village, and I picked out this white and black dress. And I was like, this'll do. I had no padding whatsoever. I was like, this'll do. I painted the face with cream. It was all cream. It was like cream up here, cream lip. Like it was a look. We'll say that. And then just the hair. And then, but I think what saved me was that, was doing the songs and, being really committed to the songs as well. I started off with, There Were Things I Could Do, and I went into Rose's Turn, and then I did Ursula. And so I ended up with this whole thing where it was like, oh, I'm so demure, and I've never done this before. Like, is cross-dressing a thing that I should be doing? I guess there are worse things I could do, to like, everything is coming up for me. Vary that into, well, I'm gonna take this, and and
who knew how real that first song was. No one had any idea.
And they were like, okay, so that was 3 numbers. And then that night, one of the queens who was there, who had done a lot of work with Jay and stuff, they were like, oh, like you should come and perform with us. We're doing a show, the Diva Cabaret, coming up on April 20th or whatever it was. And I was like, yeah, sure. Like and then I did that. That was the second time. And then it was Pride. And now we're here.
That's okay, because I remember being at the Pretty Witty and Gay, and for some reason, maybe I've lied to myself. I really remember having a mutual friend come up to us and be like, "Oh, have you seen Mavis yet? Oh, Mavis is Marshall's Mavis is amazing." So, did you have a confidant, or am I modifying my own memory? Is it the Mandela effect, or I'm like?
I think I paid someone to
get
say
out there.
That, yeah.
It was Marshall. Marshall takes off makeup and dress and comes up.
It was me,
Have you
actually.
seen Mavis? Have you ever seen Mavis and Marshall in the same room together? Okay, I have a side note and then my follow-up question. My side note is I was just introduced to the fact that Jay Whitehead wrote a song a number of years ago called Monique on Fourth.
Monique on Fourth.
Oh, my Lord.
Yes.
So I'm working with Nick Bowl, and Nick Bowl directed the music video that goes along with it. And I watched that music video for the first time last night. And I'd only ever seen Jay do drag once, maybe. That thing just blew my mind. I was so impressed by it all. Anyway, so my follow-up question to Griffin's question is, if you lived quietly in Southern Alberta and didn't go see the theater in Calgary ever, when did you know you wanted to be an actor?
Whoa!
Oh, great question.
That is a good question.
I think I've always known that I wanted to be on stage. I think I've always known that just being funny and dressing up and being able to tell stories. I feel like it's such a it's just. It's been me from a very, very young age. I remember when I was in grade 9, the 2009 Fame came out, the remake, and I watched these teens. I don't know if they were, but they were trying to go to this art school somewhere in New York City, and I remember watching it, and I would watch it like every single day because I was like, I want to do that, like I want to go to this art school, and I was going into high school at the time. I think I was in grade 9, but I was like, I want to do this. I want to act, and I want to be dramatic, because I feel like I've always just been a little bit extra, just a little bit, and
really.
Just a teen, just a little, and so
the best at
Coyote,
and
then
oh yeah. And you see, even that, so even like, when I was growing up, I think I saw that when I was like maybe 6 or 7, but we would, there's a scene in that where, one of the girls, she does like a dance and stuff. And then the other girls, they like pour some water jugs over her and she does like a whole thing like that.
Yeah.
That was like, I would do that on the porch when I was 7, 8 years old, because I feel like I've been really good at like watching things around me and wanting to imitate it, like seeing that and like, oh, I like that. I want to do that.
So
I want to do that.
This is important. Who poured the water jugs? Was it you?
No. I would never. I had some hired help. Yeah.
Good. You deserve it.
Yeah. And then I had, when I was in grade 9, I took a drama class. It was basically study hall. We read one play on the first day, and then they just kind of gave up, and they were like, oh, like these rascals don't want to, act and stuff. And I was like, come on, guys, like we're here to act. And nobody wanted to do that. So it just became study hall. It was a thing where like in that classroom, like we would just go there and just study, or just like do like, work on, it was study hall. Oh. It was not drama. And I was like, if this is what theater is, I don't want it. And so, grade 10, 11, 12, I was like, I'm good at school. So I did that. And then, and I had always known that I wanted to do theater once I got to, the U of L. I was, going in as a English ed student. And I only did that because I didn't have drama 30 because, I didn't do it. But, so I was an English ed student for the first semester. And then by the end of first year, the second semester of first year, I had done, one of the directing projects and stuff. I had my first audition, but it wasn't really, I had a friend, Dees actually, who, she asked me to read with her because she was auditioning for Ron Chambers. It was, one of the first plays that we saw. She was auditioning for that. And then, she asked me to come on and read for her. And as soon as it was done, Ron was like, oh, so Marshall, are you auditioning too? And I was like, no, I'm just here to help. And I think that was it, where I was like, oh, like I can do this. Like this is something that I can do.
Right.
Then I did directing projects in the spring, and then by that summer I was drama ed.
And so, do you have drama ed? Do you have an ed degree too?
No.
Okay. What my experience 35 years ago, almost 40 years ago, telling my parents that I wanted to go into acting. My mom will tell you she was dead set against it. I remember her being quite positive about it, but also, yeah, she said she cried, but I didn't see her cry. But you know, she did the typical.
You were her daughter.
Yeah,
that's
she was
right.
You know, can you just take a medical secretary course to have something to fall back on? Blah, blah, blah. But I have always considered myself. I was so lucky to come from a home that was like, yep, if art is your thing, if acting's your thing, go do it. I hope Griffin felt that way. And is that the kind of growing up experience you had in your family?
Yeah, I mean, I think like, so what I would do is I would like draw like, you know, admit one ticket stub, and I'd write like and like Marshall is doing the show, and I would give those to my mom and give those to all of my aunts and say like, you're coming to my show tonight.
And you owe me $40.
Yeah, exactly. And I need you to give me this so I can rip this, right? So like that was a whole thing where like,
my heart is just on fire with love right now.
Yeah, I had like with my cousins and stuff, we would just do like random songs. I remember like one of the numbers that we did was Who Let the Dogs Out? And I remember the choreo was like, Who Let the Dogs Out? And it was like, who, like it was a whole thing where we would just like choreo, like just this whole thing. And I remember I had won my very first singing lip sync to Complicated, Avril Lavigne.
Oh yeah.
Excellent choice.
Yes.
Excellent
with
choice.
the broom and everything. Yeah. So I feel like I've always just had a family who I think, you know, whether they were rolling their eyes or not, but they would sit on the couch and they would clap if I asked them to. But yeah, it's just all of that. So.
I love that. This episode of The Breakfast Dish is brought to you by Alberta Association of Optometrists, proudly celebrating a century of caring for Albertans. It happens. Many people don't call their optometrists first for urgent eye care when they need it. From spring cleaning mishaps to winter eye infections, if you or your family have an eye emergency, doctors of optometry are trained to diagnose, treat, and prescribe medications. No referral necessary. And just a reminder, Alberta health coverage is available towards your urgent eye care appointment. To find an optometrist in your area, visit optometrists.ab.ca. The Alberta Association of Optometrists represents almost 800 doctors of optometry in over 80 communities across the province. Members are highly trained, regulated health professionals who provide primary eye health and vision care to Albertans. Learn more at optometrists.ab.ca.
We are coming close to a wrap-up time, so
I'm sorry. Do we have to be coming
it's
close to our
okay.
wrap-up
I'm
time?
just coming in to say I want to clap for the Alberta Podcast Network because The Breakfast Dish is part of the Alberta Podcast Network, locally grown, community supported. The intro music you just heard and the outro music you're about to hear is by Alexandra Cowman. All graphic design for The Breakfast Dish has been done by Morgan Ermter. Karen, what's coming up?
Theatre Just Because and Keanu Theatre in Fort McMurray are presenting the play Purge by Sophie Oksanen, directed by Hannah Fridhead. There were live performances that were, according to Facebook, super popular, but they've also filmed it, and virtual performances are available. For just $10, the virtual performances. This is rated M for mature audiences. It's the first live theater that happened in Fort Mac since COVID time. You can call the box office for more information, 780-791-4990, but you can also go to theaterjustbecause.com. theaterjustbecause, all one word, .com/purge. And the other thing I would like to tell you about is happening down in Fort Whoop-Up in Lethbridge. It is the Niitsitapi experience. The Niitsitapi, or Blackfoot, have lived in their traditional territory for generations before the arrival of Europeans and the construction of Fort Whoop-Up. Learn about Niitsitapi traditions and practices through stories and activities led by the Indigenous interpreters in this experiential tour. $35 per participant. And it's a morning event, 9 a.m. to 12 p.m.
Listen, as we come into the twilight years of the second season, I don't have many regrets, but one of them is interrupting an Avril Lavigne complicated story, and I'll never forgive myself, but we have to move on. Marshall, would you mind giving us the brass tacks of Braving Beauty Cabaret? As in, where do people go to find it? Give us some dates. I think it's already running, but when does it run until? Is there a cost associated? Give us all that meaty data.
Braving Beauty started on July 11th. It's going to be streaming online. It is free, but folks do have to sign up so they can get the link and all that stuff. And to do that, they can go to artscommons.ca.
Easy breezy.
The available online performances are available till the 25th.
Yes, yeah.
Marshall, thank you very much for joining us on The Breakfast Dish.
Thank you so much for having me. I'll have the eggs Benny, with the sausage butterfly, please.
Just a second. There's a waitress.
Oh God. Hey guys, it's me, Denise. Happy to make a reappearance. We love it when Denise shows up. Everyone's always yelled that at my restaurant. Before I can bring you your order, I do have to let you know that the way that Griffin, whom I don't know, usually wraps up the breakfast dish is that Karen, whom I also, myself, Denise, don't know.
I'm a regular at your restaurant, Denise. You don't know me?
I forget all faces. I forget everything. I am time infinite. I am Denise. Karen will ask you an improvised question that we have not planned or prepped, vaguely connecting to what you just talked to us about, but hopefully it involves breakfast. Here we go, 3, 2, 1.
Mavis and I are having breakfast together, which, oh my God, has to happen. What is the one thing that I would order that Mavis would walk away from?
Oh my goodness. It would be eggs with yolk. I said eggs Benny earlier, but I would never eat that. Yolk, I can't. It needs to be Mavis. Over hard. I can't.
Over hard or poached hard.
Oh, yeah. Yes, absolutely. Yes. Or like I don't mind a scramble, but I think that's why I go for an omelet, just because I must have had something in a past life with a runny egg that I have not healed from.
I think so too.
Speaking of healing, the way that I healed when I would say 11 to 14 is Avril Lavigne. So we're going to assume the breakfast dish has turned into an empire by the end of this episode, and we'll be exiting out with Avril Lavigne's Complicated. And if not, editor's note, Griffin has to sing Complicated for a few seconds. And goodbye, everybody. I just have to make things so complicated. Last like that, you go, you fall, you break, but you get, you did it again. Bop, 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 bop.
This has been The Breakfast Dish.